What's going on, everyone? Miles here from Rings of Saturn and Interloper, and I'm here to show you how to play an adequate off of our upcoming record. So in today's lesson, we're going to go through each part of an adequate, and I'm going to show you not only how to play it, but for those of you who are theory inclined, I'm going to give you a bit of an analysis of what's happening with each part, as well as how everything ties in throughout the entire song. So let's go ahead and get started. So to give you a little bit of backstory on how the song came to be, we actually were on tour and we were playing a show in Petaluma, California. It was Aaron, Andrew, and I hanging out in the dressing room, Andrew being the other guitar player in my other band, Interloper. And I was warming up before the show like I do every day, and what ended up happening is I was just jamming and came up with this little lick. And so that was kind of what inspired this entire song, because the entire song is based off of these four chords. We have A minor, G sharp major, F major, and E major. So this is more or less harmonic minor. However, this G sharp chord is typically diminished. So that just kind of gives you a little bit of background on what's happening, and I'll show you how all of this ties in throughout the entire song. So as I just mentioned, this entire song is based off of the theme of A minor, G sharp major, F major, and E major. We're mostly going to be using two of these chords throughout the entire song. So let me go ahead and show you how this intro starts with the classical guitar. This is where we go into the piano break, where it's just the piano playing by itself. When the classical guitar comes back in, we're going to be getting a slight variation of that progression. So let me go over that first progression really quick. What we had was A minor, G sharp major, A minor, G sharp major. We had a little chromatic rundown. So what happens after that, we get a repeat of that. We get the A minor, G sharp major, A minor, and then we go down to this D minor chord. That's what leads us into the piano part. So after the piano plays, we come back in with the classical guitar as well, and it plays something slightly different than the first time. So let me go ahead and show you what that is. So let me go ahead and explain what's going on in the second part after the piano break. We have A minor, we have G sharp major, we have A minor, we go to D minor, and then E7, and then we go back to our G sharp major with the chromatic rundown. This leads us into where the electric guitar starts to swell in. Let's go ahead and go into that part next. So let's go ahead and get into the part where the electric guitar starts to swell in above the classical guitar and piano. I'll go ahead and play it slowly for you, and then I'll explain what's happening within it. So what we get here is the exact same four chords of our theme. We're going to be seeing a lot of this throughout the entire song. So I'll go ahead and play it fast for you next. So what we have here is the exact same thing, the same four chords, except we're just doing a different note value as the swelling. We're doing 16th notes now, and then we have a little bit of a variation at the end. We get two tritones, a slide down from one, a minor third below. So we go from B and F to G sharp and D. So this was a very conscious decision putting that there. Reason being, how this tritone wants to resolve is up by half step to A. A is our key we're in, right? So that was placed in there to go to the next riff. So we can resolve this by going up by half step from this G sharp to A, and down by whole step from D to C, the root and third of the key we're in. So let's go and look at the next part. So this next part starts, as you can probably guess, on A. We're doing A minor. And then we go to G sharp major. What a coincidence. Not at all. So I'll go ahead and play this part for you slowly. So both these two chords, it's just a pretty typical triad shape for a drop tuning. I'm going to drop A. So we have an A minor chord in first inversion, which means we have the third of the triad in the bass. C. And then inharmonically, we stay there and we have B sharp in the bass. Now, I have to say B sharp instead of C because our G sharp major chord is made up of G sharp, B sharp, and D sharp. We can't use any other spelling or else it wouldn't be proper for that chord. So going from there, we have this, just, pretty standard. And after that, we get this little gallop thing. This is not triplets. A lot of people I see, online or just everywhere saying, no, it's triplet. It's not a triplet. That is a completely different note value. So just throwing it out there, 2/16ths and an eighth, not triplets. So at the high speed we're at, it makes it a little bit easier to do this instead of like the typical down, up, down pattern. That works really well at lower speeds, but at this high of a speed, it's a little too fast to be able to do that. So what you do is just all alternate picking. So it's down, up, down, and then you do the next gallop on an up, down, up. A little hard to get the accents that way, but with a little bit of practice, you'll be on your way in no time. After that, we get this little slide up. We have an F sharp here that is chromatic to the key we're in, but it sounds cool, so who cares? Going from there, the next section we get into, I guess you could call it like the second verse. We get, yet again, an A minor chord and a G sharp major chord, but this time, instead of playing it as a chord, we're doing more so an arpeggio, and we're adding in a diatonic sixth to each one. So we have A, C, E, and F, and then we have G sharp, B sharp, D sharp, and D. So just root, third, fifth, sixth, root, third, fifth, sixth. So I'll go ahead and play that slow for you, and then I'll explain what else is going on. Then we get a little bit of a variation here at the end. We get this whole tone run up. What the whole tone scale is a scale made of whole tones. It's just the 6-note scale. And we get it starting on the 4th fret on our D, ends on our E, which is the first note of our phrase. And that leads us into the next part we have. So let me go ahead and play this fast for you just so you can get an idea of how it sounds, and then we'll go to the next part. Right? So going from there, I love octave harmonies. So the original guitar continues to stay down there at the lower octave, and then I play the upper harmony because I love octaves. And it's a great way to make your riff sound bigger. It's a really cool thing I use in all of my writing. I like to layer octave parts. It gives a whole other dynamic, and it sounds just cooler than two guitars playing in unison. So I'll go ahead and play the higher octave harmony for you slowly. So again, as you will notice throughout this entire song, when things repeat, I like to put a little bit of variation on it at the end. So what we have here is the 11th fret on our D, the 8th fret and 7th fret on our A string, and then the 8th fret on our D. So we just have... So it just sounds kind of cool. We get a chromatic note in there, or two, and it just sounds neat. So I'll go ahead and play this fast for you now. So this leads us into our next part. This is where we get the first kind of get you by the throat, catch you off guard slam of the song. Most of the song has been based, more or less around A minor, A harmonic minor, a couple chromatic notes, and here or there, but that's like totally normal stuff. So this kind of pulls us away from that, gives us just a big, nasty, like, it's gotcha part. So I'll go ahead and play it for you. I'm not going to play it slow because it's simple enough, so there will be a tab as well. So here we go. So what we have here is a slight departure from our tonal center. Sure, we start on A, but we're doing a lot of other things. So we get our A, we get a tritone on A and E flat, and we get a tritone on G sharp, and then we go to an octave on G, and then we go to a minor ninth with a slight bend up. So that's on G sharp. G sharp is a leading tone. So in A minor, that G sharp wants to resolve up by half step to A. That's the key we're in. So if you would have an educated guess, this next part's probably going to start on A, and it does, and is a repeat of the first verse. Except now, every other time we're going to get a variation at the end, and what that variation is going to be is this. We're going to have a tritone on F, and we're going to have this. Typical, classic ring sound. We get our, little noodly things that everyone likes. So what that leads into, that was placed there very specifically because what I wanted to have in this part, it was leading up like this. And ending on G. So just as we saw earlier when we had the tritone after the sweeps on G sharp and D, we went to A minor. It wants to resolve up by half step. So this part on G resolves up by half step to A flat. So let me go ahead and play this part for you all together, full speed. Leads us into the next part. As I said, G leading up to A flat, that's where our next part starts. So I'll go ahead and show you that. So as you can see, this part also is kind of based not around A. We're starting on G sharp most of the time. We also get one other note. So this is borrowed from a scale called melodic minor. So we normally, what we've been having in this key is A, G sharp, and then we'd have, like an F natural. It gives you that like typical harmonic minor sound. But this melodic minor happens to have a major sixth, which is our F sharp there. Again, an octave. Like, I love octaves. We also have a lower octave here in the other guitar. So this also connects with the other part that kind of departs from our key, because we have, not only are we kind of pulling away from our tonal center, but we also get a similar, it's just a half step higher. So that's kind of how those two parts connect. They both kind of pull away from our tonal center and bring us right back to it. So having said that, G sharp, like we've had a couple times in the song, leads to A. So you can probably guess the next riff is back in A. And it is a repeat of our second verse, which is this. It's that whole riff. We do the same thing, go into the octave harmony again, and then we go into the slammy part. Ooh, totally missed that pitch. Anyways, so that's what happens. That's the order of the song. We've gone through and pretty much explained how, we have a lot of the same thematic material going on, throughout the whole thing. We've been basing it all around A and G sharp major, which was, from the original idea. It's all called theme and variation. It's a great way to connect parts. So this leads us into the restatement of the intro, which is where we get the piano and classical guitar again, which then in turn takes us to our quote-unquote solo. It's a big tapping section, so we'll go ahead and get into that next. So now that we're at the tapping section of the song, this is a big build-up and release, just like huge explosive part of the song. So let me go ahead and play this slowly for you, and then I'll explain how little is actually going on. Biffed a note in there, but hey. So what's going on here is our original theme was A minor, G sharp major, F major, E major. If you look at the arpeggios that are happening in here, all we're doing is A minor, G sharp major, A minor, and then we get an E major chord. So it's a 1 sharp 7, 1 5 progression. So let me go ahead and play this quickly for you and give you a reference of how it sounds in real life. So all we have going on here basically, if we break down how we're doing this, because these tapping sections are quite difficult. So if we look at the fingerings that's happening, all we're basically doing is playing these triads in different inversions. So the first shape that our index finger, like that we pull off to, is doing is, and all that is an A minor chord in first inversion. We have the third in the bass, C. And then we go here, and this is what our pinky's doing. That is a second inversion A minor chord, and then our tapping hand's doing this. I should say tapping finger, we're not using our entire hand to tap. But all that is an A minor chord in root position. So we're really just doing, it's like an easy way you could break it down, I'm going to go to G sharp major. Same kind of thing. And then we get, E major, and then we slide up and do E major is, a higher part. There's basically like 2 bars of E major, so we have. And so what that leads us into, we have this 1 sharp 7 5 progression. A dominant 5 chord in a minor key very much wants to take you back to 1. So if we're in A minor, we do a dominant chord on E, that wants to go to 1. So that's kind of the idea here. It's just like a very, classical, typical progression. People have been doing this for hundreds of years. Maybe not the G sharp major, but this is nothing new. It just sounds really cool, and it's the context that it is in that makes it sound so big and epic. We get a little harmony on it the second half, but nothing too crazy. So I'm going from there. This leads us into our kind of like pre-breakdown parts, just like a fast rhythmic part. And we're actually hearing this rhythm during the tapping section. It starts coming in on the kick drum. So it's kind of like it's a way to introduce something new is by sneaking in little parts of it throughout the song prior. That way, when it comes in later in the song, you're like, oh wow, that sounds good, but it's because you've already heard it. It's no different than the theme and variation we're doing, harmonically. We're just kind of, rhythmically sneaking something in to precede the part that follows. So let me go ahead and play that part for you. So I just forgot how to play guitar entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and retry this and show you the rhythmic section that comes in after the tapping arpeggios. So that's what happens, and then we get this little swell in. We're on E and F, so pretty, minor second thing going on here. We have E, F, so it's your 17th fret on your B, and then 13th fret on your E. And we get a swell in, and here we go. Here is the half-speed truth. We are playing the exact same thing we just played at half the speed. Back and slam. I hope you guys enjoyed this instructional video. I tried to give you some insight into my writing style as well as different techniques I apply when writing. So hopefully you can take something away from this lesson and apply it in your own writing and come up with some cool stuff. I do also offer Skype lessons. You can give me a message on Facebook or Instagram. I do check my messages, so if you are interested, feel free to shoot me a message and we can set something up. Lastly, I'd like to mention our album is available for pre-order June 2nd, which has already happened since I'm filming this video before then. And the full album comes out on July 28th through Nuclear Blast. So if you haven't already got your copy, go ahead and order it now.